Blue Bombers quarterback Zach Collaros will miss his first start of the season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Friday night in Calgary as the Bombers take on the 3-6 Stampeders. And while Zach Collaros will not start, he will dress not as the number 2, but the number 3 quarterback as Dru Brown gets his second career CFL start in his third year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Welcome, everybody, inside Bonfire Sports. This is Game Day Winnipeg, your pregame show as we look at the Bombers and the Stampeders and everything around your favorite football club. My name is Darrin Bauming. Let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend, number 63, Chris Walby, to the program. Chris, when you saw the injury to Zach Collaros, no doubt fear is one of the first things that comes to mind. Must be a very reassuring sign that this is evidently a minor neck injury and that he will dress as the third stringer. Has to be good news.
Well, it's a smart thing. I think the club, all through this stage, I thought that the club shouldn't be playing him this game anyway, especially after the way that, Dru Brown coming in a hard situation there after the injury and playing so well. I mean, he looked like he had played 15 games. He looked like a pure vet. Yeah. Just a great job of, the biggest thing that really impressed me was his ability to escape the rush. There was a lot of pressure on him. He avoided that rush, much like, Zach does, and made plays where plays were not meant to be. So I was very impressed with him. I think we're in a good situation. I think the biggest thing that he did is Dru Brown has just increased his dollar value immensely. I'm not talking this year, but I'm talking next year because there's a number of teams in this CFL that would love to have Dru Brown, number 6 behind their quarterback.
Now, for those that don't know, Dru Brown is a pending free agent. So he's entering his third and final year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which means this coming winter, notably mid-February, right around Valentine's Day is when CFL free agency opens.
Yeah.
Dru Brown is going to have to make a decision. And what you're saying, Chris, is that from what we've seen in Dru Brown, albeit a small picture, but also considering the current quarterback situation league-wide in the CFL, do you think a team would offer Dru Brown in excess of, say, $400,000 to be their QB1?
No, I don't think he's going to get that kind of money. I still think that you have to, I really think that was a great first step that he took. I mean, listen, this is a guy that's in his career. It's just his first career start for the Bombers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know
second.
He's got, 10? Second? Okay, he's got 10
it's
touchdowns,
his first,
2 interceptions.
It's his first real career one. He got a late season one with a bunch of starters resting.
I'm used to being contradicted by you, DB. It's okay.
But,
listen, I love it, man. But listen, that's the first strong step he took. Now he has to develop that and keep continuing to develop as a quarterback. But like you said, he's in his third year. He knows the system. It's whether Paula Police or Buck Pierce as the coordinator, he understands it. And I think that he can run with this right now. I just think that what he wants to do is play within his own strengths. They don't have to cut the playbook for this guy because I'm like I said earlier, I was very impressed with his ability to get away, to scramble out of pressure. And his eyes are always downfield, which is something I thought. Some of the throws that he made were right on, and I really loved them. I mean, a couple right by the sidelines. I mean, they had to be pinpointed. They're going the other way. So, I mean, to come into that game down 22-0, throw 4 touchdowns. Coincidentally, it's the first time the Bombers, I believe, have thrown 4 touchdowns in back-to-back games. So that's quite interesting for a stat for you stat lovers. But listen, I think it's pretty good, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to see what he does tomorrow. But to go back to your question, I think it's the best move the Bombers are doing. You got a whole, you're starting the second half of your season now. Why even risk putting Zach in? There's no reason for it. You're 7-2. Regardless of what comes out of this game, you're still going to be okay. Now, the Bombers have not fared fantastic in Cowtown. I think they've only had 2 wins in the last 4.
But, this isn't your older brother's Calgary Stampeders. This team is struggling.
That's the thing. And they're missing a couple key guys. But they're also getting a couple that will get into the lineup. They're getting a couple of real key guys back as well. So, Calgary always plays tough. But there's some interesting things that are just, I watched the last 2 Calgary games on film just to see how they were playing. I don't think Jake Meyer threw one he might have thrown 5 balls over 20 yards.
If that.
Everything was sideline, dink and dunk. I don't know how when you're in a second long situation and you throw a flat pass, hoping he breaks a tackle, I was very surprised. And evidently, this is the head coach, Dave Dickinson, making the calls. So I think they have to be way more aggressive, but we'll see what happens.
I will correct you there.
What now?
Because it is not Dave Dickinson calling the plays. It is Brent Monson. Or pardon me.
Oh.
Is that right?
No, Brent Monson's defensive coordinator.
It is Mark Mueller calling the plays. He's the quarterback's coach.
My old buddy.
Yeah.
My old driver from the Grey Cups. I know he's the quarterback coach. I did not know he was running there you go.
Yeah, so Danny Austin of Post Media Calgary, fantastic reporter, joined me on Bonfire midweek last night. If you haven't caught that episode, Winston Rose stopped by right off the top. Awesome conversation with him. I'll put a little card up in the top of the screen here for the replay. For those watching live, you guys know where to find it. But Danny told me on Bonfire midweek last night that a lot of people think and presume, I get it, that Dave Dickinson is calling the plays, but he's not.
Yeah, I thought that too. And I mean, he's always got his headset on, he's got the play thing, but maybe they're doing a couple of different things. But and it's really weird, but I guess it makes sense because I mean, when you think about him, Mark's up in the booth, much like Buck Pierce is in the booth overseeing. Yep. You're looking down on the field, a little easier to make a call than in the congestion of a team that's surrounding you. So good for Mark. Listen, I know Mark personally. He's a great guy. And I'm sure he's going to rebound and try and put a great game plan against a very talented Bomber defense.
Well, while you are good friends with Mark Mueller, the reality is he and the Calgary Stampeders offense, and probably most notably Jake Meyer, taking a lot of heat because the Stampeders just do not stretch the field. CFL.ca was like hyping up Jake Meyer a couple weeks ago, saying he was 91.6% passing. And that was the best pass percentage in Stampeders history. But the reality is he didn't throw the ball downfield. It's all dink and dunk. It's all underneath. It's all in the backfield. They rely on this very strange, frankly, offense. And this is what Danny and I talked about. And I think it'll be part of the challenge for the Blue Bombers. It was something I even asked Winston Rose about last night. And it's this. If a team has a strong run game and they don't stretch the field with the pass, is it the fault of the receivers not getting open? Is it the fault of the offensive coordinator? Is it the fault of the quarterback, right? Or, and this is what I asked Winston Rose about, is it dangerous because the double move is a lot easier to sell when play after play after play, it's all short, and those DBs, the safety, the corners, the halves, are all coming up in the box to make tackles?
Yeah, and I think the other thing you have to look at is when you look, he's number 2 in the passing yardage, yet he's doing a dink and dunk passing offense. So obviously that tells you one thing. He's getting a lot of yak yards or the yards after the catch by whoever gets the ball. They're making plays. So, I mean, he hasn't stretched the field. He hasn't thrown he didn't throw a touchdown to Mayer, has not thrown a touchdown against the Bombers in the first time he met July 7th. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in the last 3 games. There's a lot of pressure on the young man to come out and play like he can play. I mean, this is a guy that they basically anointed him, got rid of Bo Levi, said Bo Levi is too old, and they anointed him the king of the Cowtown, making him the man. Yeah, they made him. No, you watched what he played. When I first saw his first ever game was against the Bombers, he went, I think, 19-20 or something like that.
Yeah, I think he went 17 for 17 to start. Yeah.
It was crazy. And I went, who is this kid? He's on, and almost like people got used to what he is. But then now does that make you wonder, is the play calling different? Are the receivers different? And there's so many different things you have to put together to understand why they have this dilemma of not being able to, or why they don't go deep as much as they can. You got Mikhail Marshall. Come on. You got Trey Odoms-Dukes, who's the most targeted receiver in the CFL.
Big body slot back.
Get us, I believe, his second start, and Tommy Lewis, who's a little speedster. Luther Hakavanahu, whatever his name, Hakavanahu, is
Pretty
back.
close. Pretty close.
I
Yep.
know that's why
That's a
I'm not
tough
on
one.
TV anymore.
Luther
Anyway, yeah.
Hakunavanu.
And then of course you got the ever reliable Reggie Begnington. I mean, they've
Look,
got so many
Reggie
guys.
Begelton is one of the best receivers in the CFL.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
his numbers are just not showing it because the quarterback isn't going downfield. And that's where Reggie Begelton's the most dangerous. You're
Yeah.
going to
I mean,
see,
yeah.
if they can get Reggie Begelton involved, you are going to see Begelton be met by Brandon Alexander, the safety.
Yeah,
That is something you're
here's a
going to
guy,
see.
and DB, no touchdowns. That's the thing that really jumped out at me. He hasn't got a touchdown. One-on-one with one of the premier defensive tackles, if not the premier defensive tackle in the CFL.
Yeah. So I'm being told now that my mic has been muted while I was kind of walking through that Stampeders defensive depth chart, well, an offensive depth chart too.
Well,
So Chris,
you
you
better
heard
wake
me.
up.
You can just tell
I heard you,
everybody,
man.
was I making half sense?
Yeah, you're doing good, man. But I guess, like I said, that's what technology is like, man. You never know what's going on, man. I mean,
Yep.
As long as the people that want to listen to you are listening to you, then it's all great, man. And that
Yeah.
was me, so I'm happy to
Well,
hear from you.
I was just saying, hey, look, that Jonathan Moxey game time decision, somebody that we'll keep an eye on ahead of the game. Cam Judge, the Canadian at weak side linebacker, Micah Alway in the middle, one of the top number producers in the CFL this year, and Titus Wall, the dime backer, incredibly talented linebacking core, and then Julian Hauser, Derek Wigan, Mike Rose, and Rose in particular at defensive tackle,
Yeah.
eating up double teams like absolute craziness. That really leads a defensive front. But Danny Austin told us on Bonfire Midweek last night that they're not getting pressure from the edges. So maybe a bit of an easier day, if you could say that, for Stanley Bryan and Jamarcus Hardrick. How important do you think Winnipeg's run game is going to be, Chris, with Dru Brown starting?
It's never as easy as that. It's never like you can put one guy on one guy, because what I can tell you is going to happen is Calgary is going to line up guys in different situations. And what they're going to try and do, they might put Cam Judge over Stanley, and that'll put Hauser on the back. They're going to try and get mismatches on the pass rush. That's how you do it. There's two ways to do it. You can either slide Stanley out to the big on big, which we used to do, and make the back fill against the linebacker, but you better make sure you get him there by the line of scrimmage. Don't meet him by the quarterback. So, yeah, there's a lot of games that the defense can do, and I believe they'll do that because, as you say, they want more pressure from Hauser, for Mike Moore. I mean, Demi Berglundy. They got some guys that can get in there, but they've got to put pressure on them. They have to beat those tackles one-on-one. And for the last little while now, the Bombers' tackles especially have been playing outstanding football.
Yeah. Just pulling up the live chat here. Great to see everybody watching live. Noticing now, appreciate everybody shouting out the issue. Got a couple text messages. Tristan Rivers, who I met at the Gold Eyes game. People hitting the Bonfire Hotline. You're muted, Bauming, you dummy. We're good now, I think. So appreciate everybody around the bonfire letting me know that, I guess it's like it's almost like I had too many drinks around the bonfire, Chris.
Well, and knowing because I know you're a preparation geek. You're always 100% ready to go. So I must downplay that, baby. Now, if that was me, maybe I believe you. But even I'm taking it easy. It's a beautiful day. I'm getting ready for the weekend. I'm going to be at the lake watching that game, and, it's going to be a great game. Weather this weekend in Winnipeg, 29, 28, beautiful.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous weather, and I hope everybody's able to find themselves a bonfire, figurative or literal, somewhere this weekend and enjoy these late days of summer and mid-August here. It's absolutely gorgeous. But on that note, Chris, everybody has a bad day sometimes. What were you like? What goes through your mind when you think back? It's almost forgotten now, but when you think back to how Zach Collaros was playing prior to the injury, in particular, that desperation pitch of the football on the play where Coney Ely hit him, and that was Collaros' last play of the game.
Very un-Collaros-like. I mean, we've seen that from other quarterbacks who are younger in status and younger in age, younger in experience, and it's something you don't normally see from a guy like Zach. Why he's trying to force a situation, and try to, pump a ball out and get it to Brady, and all of a sudden the guy picks it up and then he gets whacked. And it's still, to me, it's mind-boggling, the inconsistency of the late hit compared to that. And then I watched another game when it was a late hit and they called it. So it's just crazy. But I mean, listen, the officials are, they're human. We're not run by computers. We're trying to make sure we do the right thing most of the time. But to your point, yeah, Zach, that was interesting to watch Zach. It didn't look like he was moving around as well as he normally does either. Normally he seems to be a little quicker getting out of that pocket, scrambling. It almost looks like he was seeing the pressure a lot more than he was. But hey, listen, a good comment there by Phyllis. Hey, listen, he's human. You expect a guy to come out and throw for 400 yards every game? No, it's impossible. There's going to be plays there's going to be plays in a game that a quarterback or anybody wants to bring back. A bad throw, a misread. You know what I mean? And that was just one of those things that was glaring because it led to a touchdown the other way, and it also led to his injury, which he had to leave the game. So, yeah.
Drew Wolodarski left the game with a head injury. He was on the injury report this week, but day one of practice and all the
He
way
was there, yeah.
through on the field, healthy, seemingly good to go. He even worked after practice, extra on-field work with Dakota Prukop, who will be the number 2 quarterback Friday night in Calgary. Collaros dressing as the third stringer. This is purely a contingency plan, yes?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, that's what Montreal did. They say they started Caleb, and Cody Fajardo was dressed as an insurance only thing in Montreal. They didn't need him. Montreal really laid the boots to their plan. But that's the same thing. I mean, it's one of those things where you got to dress 3, but unless something really drastic happens, you're not going to see that third string quarterback. And to your point, I think it's great that Zach's out there working with Dakota Prokop and helping him out on his drops and his reads, because as I said, he was going through the motions. He just wasn't wearing equipment, and they don't want to take any chance. And like I said, it's a long season. You got 9 games left, man. Why would you even risk putting him in a game where maybe he takes another shot and he's gone for longer than he needs to be? So I think this is a great job by Coach O'Shea in recognizing that you got your MOP on the offense, and that's Zach. He's the straw that stirs the drink. Don't put him in a situation. He'll be there. He's going to be another set of eyes for Buck Pierce. You know that. So Buck Pierce and him will be working on what they see.
And he'll be a shoulder to lean on too, right? If Dru Brown comes off the field after a tough series, he can go right to him. Yeah.
And you know that a lot of quarterbacks, much like Buck, much like Ken Austin, I can go on and on and on. A lot of these guys end up being into the coaching ranks where they become coordinators of some sort. And I think Zach has that talent and that ability to do that after playing football. And this is just a step toward that. But I mean, that to come off, as you say, for Dru to come off and say, what did you see? And Zach goes, what did you see that cover? They changed the cover. Or maybe they ran man one side, zone the other. You know what I mean? Right. That's the thing that's going to help the quarterback see.
Lynn was asking, and great to see you, Lynn. Everybody in the live chat, what's going on? Hit the thumbs up. Just go do it.
Yeah.
Oop, says Chris Walby. It's easy, brother.
Yeah, baby.
What did you think of the hit on Collaros?
You asking me now? I thought it was late. I thought, I played it in slow motion, and you can see it. The ball is gone. 1, 2, 3, bam. There's no reason. I mean, it wasn't a vicious hit, but the fact that he landed on his shoulder and head, that. But the weirdest thing is, DB, they took it to the challenge. I mean, O'Shea challenged it. Command center, look at that. But what are you going to do? That's how it works. They didn't win that challenge. It is what it is now, right? I mean, we could all, bitch about plays that we think should have changed the nature of the game, and it, could be for both teams. So I don't know. It is what it is. It's water under the bridge right now. So we're just going to have to deal with Dru Brown, and I'm looking forward to seeing the young man come out and shine again.
Yeah, I mean, when you say deal with Dru Brown, that's almost putting it in a way like a lot of fans are thinking this is about as good as you could hope for in
Absolutely.
A number 2 quarterback. He was out there slinging there, like you said off the top, Chris, very smartly. They're not going to pare down the playbook or trim it down or put in special pack. Dru Brown is going to go out there and operate as if he is Zach Collaros, as if he is the QB1 of this team. And that is an optimal situation. I'll let you comment on that and let people know. We're going to pull up an interview with Dru Brown to give people a little bit more of a perspective on this young man. Incredibly impressive. Impressive dude. Loved his comment after the game, Chris. I don't know if you caught it on TSN, but he said, this team was really good well before I got here. Sometimes you come, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, you come in and you just kind of hope not to screw it up. Well, he threw for 304 TDs.
I'll say this other thing, DB, before you turn to that video, that clip. And that is, I love the fact that they say he's one of these guys that takes notes. Again, one of the things we talk about is consistency and chemistry. And if you have a quarterback room that is really believing in each other and trying to help each other, not worried about somebody taking his job, there's always some animosity in some of the locker rooms. Guys, like, under their breath are going, I would have made that throw, man. I should have been a quarterback. That guy should be backing me up. That's not happening in Winnipeg. They realize Zach's number 1. Dru is number 2. Dru's got a good future. I love the fact that Zach's not threatened, and that whole locker room or that whole meeting room it's just one big happy family. And I'm not trying to exaggerate, but that's what it is. And they're all playing for each other. I know sometimes you hear that, we're a family, we play, and you think, what a bunch of crap. But they do. And so I think that that's a nice thing when they have a stable and a good meeting room with Buck Pierce leading that quarterback. So Dru Brown couldn't be in a better situation, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of stable and good, I'm sure everybody out there appreciates how good your microphone sounds this week. Man.
Yeah, you got me a new mic. You came over and it was great. I know that you said you liked it when you didn't hear me, but it's okay, man.
What I never liked was spending 20 minutes editing your audio afterwards, so the podcast was more listenable. But hey, let's get into a guy that has been very stable, very good, and has people talking from coast to coast. Frankly, what I've been saying for 12 months, Dru Brown will be a starter in the CFL one day. He gets a second career start Friday night in Calgary against the Stampeders. Let's hear from QB2, who moves to QB1 this week.
Maybe talk about the lousy part first. I mean, you get that chance because Zach goes down, of course. So what's that feel like?
Zach's been a really important person in my life, since I met him. He's taught me a lot of things, given me a lot of shortcuts, made me feel welcome since the first day I got here. His family has always welcomed me and my wife in their home, and we just enjoy spending a lot of time together. So obviously the first thing that goes into your mind is, is he going to be okay? And it's always kind of a double-edged sword situation. When, if you've ever gotten a chance to play, it's either someone's gotten benched or someone's gotten hurt. And it's the bad part of getting your opportunity. So.
That said, what's it like to get the chance to show what you can do and then to have it turn out the way it did? What's that like?
Yeah, I think, you just try and go in there and do what you're asked to do. All three of us in that room, communicate very fluidly throughout the week on what we're thinking. Buck does a good job of getting us all to understand that. As I reflect on it, it was really nice to get out there and be able to showcase what I can do. I haven't really had that much of an opportunity to thus far. But more importantly, it was just really exciting to be out there and have the guys trust, the receivers, the offensive line, and, the defensive guys believing in me and stepping in there. And that means a lot to me personally. So, as I look back on it, that was pretty meaningful to me.
Yeah. Could relief appearances get any better? When you look at the numbers and the result.
Yeah, like I said, they did a great job preparing me and believing in me. Guys were, it doesn't matter if I go to the right spot if someone doesn't create separation or if you don't have time. All 12 guys were working hard to continue to chip away, and that's what we did. And you kind of see the result when we're all on the same page.
What's maybe the biggest thing that Zach has helped you with?
So many things in regarding the game. Our relationship just, I think he saw me come in and I was not afraid to ask questions to him, and it's really hit or miss with someone like that, and you don't know if they're going to be like, piss off, or if they're going to enjoy being a teacher. And Zach's he's still playing, and he's one of the best teachers I've been around. Not just by the way that he speaks and communicates to me, but what he does in his actions. So I couldn't narrow it down to one thing, but there have been a multitude of gems that, sometimes there are things he told me my first year, and now I understand them, and just as they've lingered in my brain. So I think the coolest part for me with Zach is, it turned, as he continued to, I guess, teach me, and we continued to talk. He appreciated the things that I know because, you know, he played the college game a while ago and I'm semi-fresh out of it. So he made me feel as an equal, whereas a lot of times in that situation, you don't ever feel that way. You kind of always feel like you're below, but he does a really good job of, he still wants to learn. And, you know, he's always asking me questions about stuff I did in college. And I think that's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? There couldn't be one thing I could tell you. You know what I mean? It's just like our whole relationship. I'm just like light bulb, you know, so it's pretty neat.
Do you feel like you've grown a lot since that game in Vancouver last year? I mean, also, you played well, just probably 2 throws you won back for that one, but do you feel like you've grown a lot or changed a lot since that game? Or?
Yeah, I think, you know, going back to that game, you know, there's certain things that you do in season, game planning wise, I guess, that you don't really put on tape in the preseason. So, you know, it's not like those are wasted reps, but like certain things that we're asked to do in season, it's just really important to like rep those pictures and see what the adjustments are. And so just how fluidly that goes on in my brain in the pre-snap, it's, you know, I still feel like I have a lot of room to grow, but you know, every game it's like it's starting to be a little bit quicker. You know, so I'm always appreciative of any time I get in there, even if we're blowing a team out, just to literally see the Sam come over. Like, you know, you're just seeing those pictures in your head are important, and you know, our defense doesn't necessarily do some of the things that we're looking for. So those are important things that you kind of take note of, and I do think that comfort comes also within a game. You know, you're not just in there like, okay, there's 3 minutes left, I'm gonna get to throw the ball once, okay, let's make the most of it. It's kind of like, okay, now I can kind of get in rhythm. So to answer your question, I do feel like I've gotten a lot more comfortable.
If Zach misses some time, I mean, obviously this could be a chance for you to show that you could be a starter in this league, right? Sure. You know, you being a free agent after this year. How do you think about that? Do you try not to think about that? How do you just kind of cope with that? Because obviously that's, you know, it could be a big chance for your career, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we're so busy to like on what we're supposed to be doing. We're always very present, texting or meeting about, you know, what we're gonna do, and it's hard to think, you know, down the road, you know, but I'm human and I have before, but I always just kind of brush it aside because it's not important right now what happens after this year. It's not important to me right now. I'm just going to handle what's, you know, in front of me.
Do you want to quickly explain in your bracelets? One of them says "I am second," which I find interesting.
Yeah, so that's just I was pretty involved in like FCA when I was in college. You know, it just is a reminder that, you know, you're second in what you believe, and you know, as a believer, I believe that God's first and that you honor God.
And the I promise is just about.
Yeah, I mean, that was the I promise was a gift,
Okay.
if you can call it a gift. Before my first start at Hawaii, one of my buddies on the team gave it to me, and he said, "Make a promise to yourself, make a promise to be great." And honestly, I never really thought much about it, but I do think it's kind of cool that it's still hanging around. That was a long time ago.
So this is start number 2 coming up, and potentially, we shouldn't jump the gun, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure how it's going to work out, but I'll know. I know that, you know, we'll prepare like it's any other week. You know, all three of us prepare in unison and communicate really well with each other.
Did you surprise yourself with anything you did on the last game?
No, I had a lot of fun. And, you know, when you're in the position that I've been in, there are other things that you find fun that you may have not before. It gives you a chance to observe a little bit more. so you appreciate some of the things that you're doing. Maybe like thinking back, like, okay, when I was a starter, man, the guy that was behind me was really good at communicating the stuff that I either didn't have the patience for or I forgot about. And, you know, you find out those certain things. But you also forget how fun it is to compete and how fun it is to just go through hard stuff out there, you know what I mean? And to get, as weird as it sounds, to get hit every once in a while.
It can be fun too.
Yeah, there's certain things you just forget about. So I wouldn't say I was surprised by anything that I did, just because I have a high belief in myself. But I miss playing. It's a lot of fun to get out there. I think that's why I chose it as a career path.
Maybe a tough question to answer, but you played with a lot of poise. I've had a lot of people tell me that. Is that something you've always had? Understanding that's probably a tough one to answer.
I mean, I think that's something that people tell you have. And, you know, it's when you're very focused on what you have to do in that moment, you know, that's what it'll probably look like. If you're worried about things that you can't control, then I can see how someone could get frazzled.
Sure.
But, you know, anytime that I think about the moment too much, I just remind myself, like my first college snaps was at Michigan in front of 120,000. And we were getting the shit kicked out of us. So it's like, as worse a situation as you could possibly get in.
Yeah.
And I held my own. So that was kind of a cool moment for me to be able to grasp onto, because that was essentially the first time I ever had that chance to get my foot in the door at that level. You know, in high school, typically all of us were the best player on the team. Went to junior college, one of the best players on the team.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get to that level and you're like, oh my goodness, like there's Jabril Peppers and, you know, there's all these guys that are in the NFL or gonna go to the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, let me just do my job, and then it goes well for you. And that's kind of something that I've clung on to, is that experience, because it was pretty nuts as I look back and just reflect on it. But in that moment, like I said, you're kind of blinders on, doing what you got to do.
Right. Thanks, Drew.
So, of course.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
What's FCA? Dru Brown, incredibly impressive young man. And I asked him at the end there, you know, what's FCA? And it's a Christian fellowship association of some kind. And, you know, clearly faith important to him. But I asked him about composure, because so often, Chris, we see these young quarterbacks come in and they look a little frazzled, right? If you see enough football in your life, you can kind of pick up on the body language. And he just looked like he'd been there so many times before. And when I asked him about it, and you heard him talk about, like, you know, getting the shit kicked out of them, you know, at the big house in Michigan and Ann Arbor against Big Blue, the other Big Blue, you know, playing those big games, and he held his own. The way he answered that, it's like he's been told before he has that composure. So when a quarterback comes to pro football and he can make all the throws and he's smart and he puts in the work and he has that composure nearly immediately, like, look, he's not a rookie. He's a third-year player, but that was his, you know, first big chunk of a meaningful game, a huge comeback, the second biggest comeback in Blue Bombers franchise history. And this guy just did it like it was no big deal. And he threw for 4 TDs and over 300 yards. Exceptional.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, too, is people get to look at the guy behind the face mask when you did that interview with him, which I thought was a great interview, DB. First thing that popped off to me was what a well-spoken young man he is. He doesn't just, you know, rattle out answers. He thinks about what he's going to say before he says it.
Yeah.
You can tell he's brought up properly. He's got great beliefs, you know, in his whole family and his life. He's not trying to look too far ahead where it might happen. He's happy to be here. I love the comment, as you said, you know, he got his first snap in front of 110,000 people in Michigan. You know, he knows that he can play this game. He's waited for his opportunity to play this game. And I think that he's proven that he can play this game. But again, we always say this, man, one game does not make a career. But I still think if I had to take this guy versus some of the other backups in the league, it'd be hands down. I'd be taking Dru Brown. I just like the way the guy comes and approaches the game. I talked about this earlier. He is a guy that studies film and makes notes about everything. It could be a comment by Zach. It could be a comment by Dakota Brukop. He'll write it down and memorize it. And you can see this is one of these guys that visualizes the game. He doesn't just play the game. He plays the game mentally before the game.
Yeah.
What happens if they bring this guy up to me? What if they put a couple linebackers up? What am I looking? Where's my first read? And that's what impressed me the hell out of me last week was, man, the pressure's on him, and he'd roll out, and he threw a beautiful ball. Even almost like sidearm, almost like a Mahoney from Kansas. It just, you got to like a guy like this, and you got to like his attitude, and you got to like the way he comes across in the media. Yep. And that's the first timer that I've heard a lot lengthy interview with him. And I'm impressed with the young man. And when you see a guy like that, you want only good things to happen for him. So,
yeah,
I'm hoping that Dru just comes back and lights it up again against Calgary.
There will be people that will wonder, should Winnipeg move forward with Dru Brown? Now it's way too early to say that.
It's way too early, yeah.
But if Dru Brown continues to acquaint himself like this, and the Bombers are looking at a decision, they have Zach Collaros under contract through 2024 and 2025. There's 2 years remaining on his deal, and Dru Brown is entering free agency this year. Do you throw some money at Dru Brown to have him stay with Winnipeg?
No, it's not going to happen. First off, Dru Brown's
I'm not
nice
saying
kid.
starter money, but do you pay premium backup money?
But money, you just hit the head on the nail on the head. You know what? You're not. He doesn't want to be a backup. Nobody wants to come in this league to be a backup. Yeah, he's great when he comes in. He plays great, but everybody plays to go to the next level. He's not talking about NFL right now, but he mentioned it a little bit in his comments there.
Yeah,
he's not looking there yet. I'm not even saying it's on his radar, but nobody comes into this league. Nobody plays to be a backup. I don't go, man, I hope I can back up Zach again. And if they offer me money, why would I do that? No, man, you know what? I want to build my resume up to the point where let's make this choice difficult. Will it be difficult? No. If Zach stays healthy and still plays the way he is, there's not a choice. And that's going to become the question. Does Dru want to stay here, or does he want to get out on his own and, create his own name, creating his own legacy? I just think Dru Brown, if he continues to play and will go in the path he's going, is not going to want to. Even though he loves the locker room, he loves the guys, you want to play. And to give him money as a backup, that defeats the purpose to me. It's just like you're just saying, it's like, you know what? You ever get those, what do you call those things? The fleas. You know what? You put a bunch of fleas in a cup. Those fleas will jump out of the cup. If I put a lid on that cup, after a while, them fleas keep hitting their head on the cup, they don't jump anymore. No incentive. That's what happens when you give a quarterback backup money all the time. He doesn't want to play anymore. He just says, you know what? I don't want to be nobody wants to be a backup. Come on, baby. Unless you think you cannot be a starter. And there's no way in God's green earth this kid thinks he can't start somewhere. So let's just put that to rest. And that flea story, that's a true story, brother.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I went to the flea circus as a kid. I know all about it, man.
The flea circus. I went to the flea market as a kid. You went to the flea circus?
Flea circus, man. Yeah.
What is that?
Not a whole lot of room to watch, but it was good.
That was pre-iPad days. I know that because the kids don't know what a flea circus. What's a flea circus?
Flea circus is where you get them. They ride the tightrope. They do a little juggling with miniature little mothballs. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
Like do they ride the elephants too, right? Because the circus is all about the elephants.
But you know what? And let's give Craig Smith a little shot here.
Yep.
He's always on a podcast with us. And we love him. And Bombers have the best front office in the CFL. I mean, Kyle, Danny, and Ted, they do a fantastic job of scouting and bringing in talent. And when you're bringing in this kind of talent that makes decisions hard, that's what you want. Yep. You don't want an easy decision. You want tough decisions.
Well, yeah, tough decisions are good decisions, right? But to Craig's point, hopefully they can keep them. As Craig says, for those listening on podcast, Craig says, I've seen it before. Bombers have the best front office in the CFL. Kyle Walters, Danny McManus, and Ted Gavaya. Hopefully they can keep them. Kyle Walters, is in the final year of his contract. I
Very
believe
interesting.
Danny McManus and Ted Gavaya as assistant GMs are also on 1-year deals or in the final year. So to me, these are some of the biggest free agent signings that not Kyle Walters needs to address this offseason, but that Wade Miller needs to address.
Remember, there was a big stink when they extended Wade and they extended, and then he didn't extend Kyle. And so it was, what's going on with Kyle? Is this Kyle's last year? And then they're worried about losing Danny and Ted. But I think Danny right now is on radar of a lot of teams right now. I think Danny would be one of those guys that seriously, not only as a scout, but I think as a GM.
Yeah, Ted Gavaya for sure.
And yeah, exactly. So I
mean, both of them.
And maybe these guys have signed a blood pact, where there's one goes, we all go. You know what I mean? You never know. When you're working good together, maybe you want to hang together for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or sometimes people just like working together, right? So
absolutely.
It's like if you find success and you like one another, stick it out.
Did you read the articles about the president who got let go in Edmonton?
Victor QE, yeah.
QE. And that you read in some of the other articles about how he was accused of being a bully, accused of treating his staff like garbage,
accused of a toxic work environment. Yeah,
toxic. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's to your point, DB. That's exactly to your point. When you have a great relationship when you're working, you love coming to work. If you're with a toxic work environment, you're like, oh God, I got to show up another 8 hours. I got to be back there. It's not fun. And nobody wants to be like that. So again, one of the scenarios I think that, as you mentioned, Kyle, Ted, and Danny have is they get along fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. But what I know about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is that while he is the head coach, and that is under the upper brass, under GM and under president, okay, what I know about the Blue Bombers is that it is Mike O'Shea's show.
Oh, for sure.
Mike O'Shea is the boss, and it's worked incredibly well. It is unique. It's a different dynamic, but it has worked incredibly well because winning solves everything. And the Blue Bombers have been winning now for a long time, and they look to be winning again this season. It is Grey Cup or bust. It's been Grey Cup or bust since 2019, no?
Yeah. They've been on an incredible run. I mean, obviously they lost last year to Toronto. I think they're front runners again, but Toronto's strong as well this year. And again, I've said this before. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if a team really starts to catch fire near the end, I tell you, great things can happen for a team that happens like that. So, I mean, nobody's really out of it except for maybe a couple teams on the, maybe Edmonton and. Yeah, I can't see them come 0-9.
Saskatchewan,
I mean, basically,
Saskatchewan, their head coach,
maybe you never know.
GM,
but
final year of their deal.
Calgary. If you watched Calgary last year, I think it was last year, they lost 6. They were 3-6 at the same time last year, and they rattled off 6 wins in a row. So there's momentum, and there's that opportunity to change the course of where you're going, the direction you're going into. Losing breeds winning. I mean, winning is fun. Losing can also breed as well. It's like a mold in your house. You can't get rid of it. You know what I mean? It
just gets worse and worse.
And all of a sudden you get behind a little bit. Next thing you're like going, you know what? Here we go again, baby. You start thinking, where are we going for beers after because the game's over? That's the worst thing in the world, man. So yeah.
Hey, Chris, look, the game at hand here is an important one because every game is important in the CFL West.
In the West, yeah.
And, the BC Lions are 7-2, tied with Winnipeg for first place. Of course, we're looking towards that monster game, October 6th in Vancouver, with those two teams squaring off, which could effectively be the deciding game between your franchise making $1 million on playoff ticket sales and not. However, Friday night, Bombers Stampeders, it's Dru Brown, it's Jake Mayer, it's a very injured and getting back to health Stampeders team. It's a very healthy roster, pretty much top to bottom in Winnipeg. Yep. What are your keys to the game? What will it take for Winnipeg to capture a victory and, string together their fourth win in a row after a real tough letdown game in Ottawa in overtime.
I think there's a number of points, and my number one is get off to a better start. You can't go down 22-0. That's the biggest thing, right? Protect the football is a huge thing. They had one turnover last week, and it led to a touchdown. I think the big thing, though, is you must establish Brady. Brady Oliveira, who leads the league in rushing and on all-purpose yards, has to be a major factor tomorrow. You want to take as much pressure off Dru Brown. Great game last week, 4 touchdown passes. But remember, he hasn't started many. I think it's the second game he may have started, first this year for sure. I mean, you want to get him comfortable back there. So that's really what I think. So the O-line and the run game are paramount. On defense, it's almost the opposite. You've got to stuff. I think this double monster of Kaboom, Kadeem Carey, and Dynamite, Dedrick Mills. These are 2 of the best running backs in the CFL, and they've had big games against the Bombers. But now Kadeem Carey being healthy is huge. I think you have to force Jake Mayer to beat you through the air. This is a guy who has not thrown a touchdown pass this year against the Bombers, has not thrown a touchdown pass in the last 3 games. Let's keep it this way. And on special teams, I'm just going to go to a different thing. I'm going to say, I want to put I haven't seen anybody go after punt block yet, but I want to put some pressure on Cody Grace, the Calgary punter who leads the CFL with an outstanding 49.4 yard average. And he's got 8 inside the 10-yard line, which also leads the CFL. I would like to rattle him and force him to shank a few punts.
Oh, I like it.
That's it, baby.
The Stampeders kicking game is really where they've been relying on for points.
Yeah.
Winnipeg's defense needs to keep Rene Paredes in the 40 plus range, and obviously keep the Jake Mayer's arm and the offense out of the end zone. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be an easy task, Chris.
No, but I'll say one more thing too. We haven't really touched on this, and I know last year we did a lot with Legio. This is a game that features 2 of the best kickers in the CFL. One, right, a definite first-round CFL Hall of Famer, and Rene Paredes, who is 27 of 30, last 18 in a row, 6 for 6 over 50 yards. And then you look at the other side, our guy, Sergio Castillo, 3 for 3 over 50. He's only missed 1 kick. 2 of the best. So if you are a kicker and you love watching field goals and you like that kind of stuff, these are 2 of the greatest to watch. So
look at you, Chris Walby, pulling up kicker stats. What's going on?
This is what happens when I haven't had a beer pre-game, buddy.
You just think about that. No beer and you're reading.
I know, it's crazy, man. You see my notes are all over the thing here. I'm like, whoa.
I know one thing about Chris Walby. If you're drinking, you ain't reading.
No, I know. And the other thing
you're laughing. You're having fun.
Me off. Hey, this liquor drink's pissing me off, boy.
That's awesome. Final thoughts on this one, Chris. I mean, we're going to get a good long look at Dru Brown. I think it'll be very interesting to see how Buck Pierce has a game plan against a very, very talented, frankly, very talented Calgary Stampeders defense. Is it going to be wide open Wild West, let Dru Brown sling it? Or will they be a little bit more conservative just to ensure that things don't get out of hand for a young quarterback?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'll leave it at this too. Most of the time, some teams will script the first 5-6 plays.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they're doing that to determine how the defense is going to adjust to what you're running. So I think what's going to be, it's one of those games where each team's going to fill each other out for a little bit. I would not be very surprised if it's not one of the first 2 drives that Jake Mayer tries to go deep on us, just to say, hey, man, maybe I haven't done it, but I'm going to do it. And I think you're going to see the Bombers. I really think you're going to see a little bit more of outside, get a little screen passes to Greg McRae. I think you're going to have a lot of the screens and draws with Brady. So I think you're going to have a really great scheme of things. It'll be Brent Monson, the defensive coordinator, going against, obviously, Buck Pierce and our wild offense. And then, of course, you got Richie Hall going against, and you corrected me, and God bless you for that, Mark Mueller, the offensive play caller for the Calgary Stampeders. There you go, brother.
No doubt. Waiters has a score prediction, 26-13 for Winnipeg.
Not bad.
For those that are, what happened to your camera?
right there.
Look at you. You jumped.
Oh, you know what happened? I got a little excited.
Yeah,
There you
did.
go. I got
You know what?
I smacked the table.
Let's see. Can I fix you?
I'm shrinking.
Still, not bad.
That's okay. We're at the end of the podcast.
We are at the end. I wanted to pull up a couple comments of some people's questions and that sort of thing. Jamie Fedden, watching. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Watching live on Facebook. What's going on, Jamie? Good to see you. What is Chris's favorite stadium that he played in on the road?
You know where it was? And I'm not going to lie there, buddy. Jamie, it was Calgary. I loved playing in Calgary. Loved that field. I loved the turf. I don't know. I felt great there all the time. I felt like I could have great games there. It just seems like I had a lot of success there as no offensive lineman going against some of the great defensive linemen they had back then. But I loved Calgary. I liked the locker rooms, the atmosphere, the crowd. It's just a first-class facility. And, Saskatchewan, no, worst. Hamilton was the worst. 3 bathrooms for a team.
What?
3 bathrooms.
Like 3 urinals or 3 stalls or
3 stall like toilets. So you got to go in there, and all of a sudden, you got to line up, and you get the pregame jitters, and trying to get all that extra
jitters
carbs you just ate.
You used to drink a ton of coffee, right?
Well, we drank a lot of coffee and a lot of what do you call that stuff? We break the capsules.
The caffeine pills.
No caffeine pills. The other one, ginseng.
Oh, ginseng. Oh, yeah, like a natural. That's like a natural caffeine.
I could run like a deer. Brother.
A deer.
If I put a pair of antlers on my head and ran through the bushes, I'd outrun the hunters.
You know what?
That's what I'm telling you, man.
Maybe a John Deere.
As Ric Flair used to say, "Woo, baby."
Another one I wanted to bring here. Drew gonna cook. I have a good feeling that Dru Brown is gonna cook as well. Bluto smash. People loving the energy you're bringing here, Chris. Some people have been calling for Luca. Is Luca there?
Yeah, he's right here down here. I have my other son's dog here today too, Merle, named after Merle Haggard.
Oh, okay.
So my other son's dog is Brooks, named after Garth Brooks, and mine is just Luca, named after the famous opera singer Luca. I don't know what his last freaking name is.
Luciano Pavarotti.
Oh, there you go. Look at you,
man. Rando.
You're right
Jay Miller with a ridiculous comment, but might be the comment of the night. Tramp stamps are getting motorboated. I don't even know what that means, but it's kind of funny.
I know what motorboat means, but that's weird, man.
Well, I know what that means, but I don't know what tramp stamps get. Like tramp stamps? That's a good one.
The other thing that's really going to be important there, DB, and we didn't really talk about. I talked about a fast start, but even more so is Dru Brown has to get off to a good start.
Yeah.
Nothing destroys a young man's confidence than going into the game and maybe throwing a bad pass, getting a pick, fumbling a ball, a bad read, getting hit. He needs to find that rhythm, and that's why I really do believe they need to get Brady Oliveira involved early in offense. So
I like it.
There you go, buddy.
I like it. Well, hey everybody. I know we had some issues with the mics muting when we were pulling up the screen share. We'll get that straightened out on the post-game show. Zach Schnitzer will join me. And I know we didn't pull up the Bombers depth chart, but here's what you need to know. It's exactly the same as last week, except Zach Collaros is not QB1, he's QB3. Healthy enough to dress, but will not start. It will be Dru Brown. That's it. No changes for a second straight week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's really, really something. Okay, Chris, have a great weekend, my friend.
Hey, you too, buddy. And DB, as you said, enjoy it. We're almost in fall. Beautiful weather coming up. 30, 29 on a weekend. I'm telling you right now, if you have to, get a lot of ice because you got to do something to keep that beer cold, brother. And that's what I'm saying right there. There's your tip of the day.
Amen.
Get ice. All right, man. I'd love to see you, but I got to go because what's that? Yep. Okay. Liquor strike's over.